Today we'll talk about the mathematics of an approximately 40 kg weight loss. Okay, so when we talk from a calorie deficit point of view, there are multiple ways to do this and I'll show you one way. Now let's assume that 1 kg of body weight approximately requires 10,000 calories per year just to sustain, which is to stay warm, to mobilize, to be a part of a living exoskeleton. You need 10,000 calorie intake per year, which is approximately 30 per day. Okay, this is roughly what a BMR calculation looks like. Now at the end of the day, when you say you want to knock off 40 kgs, what does this entail? So let's take a person who weighs 120 kgs. At 120 kgs, it's 120 into 10,000, which equals to 1,20,000, or what would be called 1.2 million calorie economy. Now the economy is this large. Now when you tell me you want to come to 80, what are we talking about? We're talking about 80 into 10,000 per year. So this equals to an 800 grand economy. So the differential here is almost 400 grand. Now where will we achieve this from? It's understood that you want to knock off so many calories in 1 year to get to this weight and hopefully stay here. The critical question is, when I knock off this volume of food, how do you get your nutrition? And for that I've shot another video. So you must learn to sustain nutrition even at this calorie range, because most obese people get their calories from volume of food versus targeted precise nutrition, which is here. But that's another video. Now the question is, if you want to stay here, this kind of calorie deficit, to produce it, we have multiple techniques. One is we can say we want to lose 400 grand at a daily deficit. Now, if you take a daily deficit, it's quite complicated, but it's approximately 400 grand by 365, which is give or take in the range of 1100 calories per day. Now, this can be quite exhausting for a person to calculate. If a person weighs approximately 120 with a 3600 odd metabolic rate, you tell them eat 1100 calories less every day. They get the point, but after a while, doing the math all year round can be a little bit tiring. So what kind of structural changes can we make? So my favorite way to play this game is to work on a larger annual structure. Okay, we're going to assume that you get your micronutrients as well as your protein and other things, but from an annual structure perspective, to knock off 400 grand, what are we going to do? First, we're going to knock off salt, oil and sugar to a large degree. So let's say about 80% of our leakage or the excess calorie or volume was coming from here. We're going to take away salt, oil and sugar to a reasonable degree. Things like aerated drinks or high glycemic sugars, just a little bit, and deep fried snacks. And of course what we conventionally call junk. So once you take away this, let's say this is our target, the first 1 lakh gets straight away compensated from here, because junk food, no matter what we say, is not more than 500 to 600 calories averaged per day over the year. We don't literally eat it every day and you can get rid of it. So the first, you're now down to 300,000. Now that we're at 300,000 from, let's take junk out. Now the second step is, yes, you can do calculations. What I prefer is using, again, I don't like this word too much, but we'll use it for lack of another word, which basically means you're just going to start skipping meals. Now let's take, if you reach a point where you can do nomad, as I call it, no meal a day. Let's say in about 6 months time, 3-4 months time, you're able to now hit your no meal a day, and at this point you produce 50 not consecutive days of nomad. Now 50 days of nomad is approximately 50 into, at a metabolic rate of 3000, you're looking at 1.5 lakhs straight away knocked off. You take OMAD, which is approximately 50 into, say, this is little lesser because you're eating 1 meal now. So this is what? This is about 1,20,000 or give or take. So now you are down to 2,70,000. You've taken care of this much just by following 100 days of meal tapering. 150 days, one a week. It's simple to understand. It's a good start. But now for the final 30,000 or so, don't forget 1 lakh 100 grand came from junk. Another 100 grand came, 1.5 grand in fact, lakhs came from nomad, which is no meal a day. 1 lakh came from OMAD. Now we are left with just 30,000. Now this is where the magic of intense fasting comes from. Intense fasting is a technique which we do. We run these programs almost every 3 months or 2 months, and we have people enrolling them to do what's called a 9-day fast, where they learn to go 5 days within a 9-day program on 0 calorie intake, which is literally nomad. Now what happens here? In just this 9-day session, you burn up to close to 10,000 calories. Now if you do 3 of these a year, you can be comfortably sitting at 30,000. So moral of the story, if you do the 9-day fast into 3 times in the year, you're back down to, this is the 9-day. So you just do this 3 times and you realize that the combination here structurally brings you down to 4 lakh calories and keeps you here, because this is very sustainable in a year. It takes away the mathematics of daily counting. I hope this video is useful. I'd love to hear what you say in the comments.